Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Sunday Advanced Bible Study, the 15th of February, 2026. We'll be reading out of our 5 chapters out of the book of Isaiah, chapters 1 through 5. We're going to read each chapter and break it down. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening, and check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine, get the meat out. These videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. Okay, this channel is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanak and the Torah. Tanak being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Savior and our Redeemer, the Lord of Hosts. Okay, we don't deal with the New Testament with Peter and Paul, the church fathers, apostles. We don't subscribe to that. Okay, this channel was created to aid and assist all Hebrews who are waking up in these final days to their true identity, and also understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is. Okay, shalom and welcome to this channel, and welcome to our advanced Bible study. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer. We'll read the Psalms. We have some current events, some need-to-know information. We'll open it up for anybody with questions, comments, any dialogue or testimonies. And then we'll go into our topic for discussion, which is 2026 reparation payments are approved. We're going to look at that video, and then we'll talk about it, break it down, okay? Now, scripture reading, like I said, it'll be out of the book of Isaiah, chapters 1 through 5. We're going to read each chapter and break it down. Then we'll pick a scripture like we normally do. We'll read that scripture, and we'll break it down. Then we'll close out. The moment of silence is for the Lord of Hosts, and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in this last day. Oh Lord, we come before Thee at this time that You have given unto us. We are thankful for the knowledge and the understanding that You have given us up until this point. When we seek Thy face, that You shower us with peace and enlightenment and a sense of togetherness. Oh Lord, we see Thy hand in the affairs of the world, and we know and understand that what You have spoken in the past will surely come to pass. Turn not Thy face from us, but hearken unto our plea. Hearken, O Lord, and do. Okay, so with that being said, I'll read the Psalms right quick. Okay. Okay, I'll read Psalms 2. Why do the heathen rage? Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against His anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder, cast away the cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, and the Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall He speak unto them in His wrath, and vex them in His sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king upon the holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for possession. Thou shalt break them with the rod of iron, and thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings, be instructed, ye sons of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest He be angry and ye perish from the way, when His wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all they that put their trust in Him. Okay, anybody got anything on that? Psalms 2. Okay, so what I wanted to shine light on was I lost it. It says, I set my king from over here. Yeah, I lost that. So yeah. So we see right here that David is talking. That's one of the main things I wanted to shine light on to people that don't understand who the Messiah really is. David is the Messiah, okay? And David is the one that's talking in all these verses. And so they have you thinking, after they concocted JC in the New Testament, they have you thinking that David is prophesying about somebody that's coming in the future when the whole time David is prophesying about himself. Uh, for example, he says, ask me, David talking, and I shall give thee the king, the heathen. Y'all got it now. So he says, ask me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for my possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, and thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Then he's talking to the Gentiles, people of the earth, because we already see that he put his king David on the throne in verse 6. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill, Zion, right? And so he says over here, uh, be thou wise now, therefore, O ye kings of the earth. That's the Gentiles, the heathens. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Then kiss the Son, David, lest he be angry and ye perish from the way when his wrath is kindled. But a little, blessed all they that put their trust in him. And the other verse I want to deal with was, notice in verse 8, he says, talking to David, ask me, and I shall give thee the heathen, right? So let's look at that. So we see over here in Genesis, he did that with Abraham. Let's look at it. He gave Abraham the heathen. Okay, let me get it right quick. Yeah, I think it's 15, chapter 15. Let me get it. Yeah, chapter 15. And we're going to look at start at verse 18. Genesis 15 and 18. This Abraham was circumcised, right? We see that, and then in verse 18, in the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, right? See that? Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land from the river of Egypt, even to the great river, the river Euphrates. Then he go to heathen, right? He gave Abraham the Kenite, the Kizite, Kodamite, the Hittite, the Prezorite, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Gebushites, and the Jebusites. So it ain't nothing new what he done with David, because long before that, he gave Abraham all these giants right here, heathens. He gave them over into Abraham's hand, along with the land of Canaan. Okay? So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and go to our current events. Somebody got anything? Okay.
It's ironic because I hear from a lot of people that China is this super peaceful country and that its rise as a superpower has been one of the most peaceful ever. But I'm here to tell you that's not the case. They are already testing the waters, literally. You see, right now, water is being displaced by a certain navy, a very peaceful navy that weighs about 2.5 million tons. And the weight and size of China's navy has been increasing faster than interest rates during the subprime mortgage crisis of 2007. You see, a lot of us in the Western world, we might think that if a global conflict were to ignite, it would happen in the places that we see on the news every single day. It would be through the rolling plains of Eastern Europe or the shifting sands of the Middle East and good old America. When Ferdinand Magellan sailed into the Pacific Ocean in 1520, he found this water around here so calm, so cooperative, that he called them Mar Pacifico, or the peaceful sea. That's what the Pacific is. But history has a funny and almost...
So this video is the title of it is China is quietly about to attack 5 countries at once.
Okay. Cruel way of making names the ultimate punchline. So kind of like naming a lot of banking stocks before 2008, like safe, stable growth plus stocks. And then eventually some unsafe, unstable losses occur in those stocks. The Pacific Ocean is named the same way. For the last 40 years, the world's rising superpower in China has maintained a very specific brand. It's a brand of the peaceful superpower. And their narrative is kind of like this. We don't do what the West does. We don't invade. We don't drop freedom from 30,000 feet. We just build stuff. And boy, have they ever built. They built 40,000 kilometers of high-speed rail while the United States was still trying to figure out how to repair a pothole in Philadelphia without a 10-year environmental impact study. However, that narrative, when you look at some of their military spending, just isn't true. In 2025, the official defense budget of the rising giant of China sat at roughly $247 billion. Now that sounds like a lot, and it is for almost every other country except the United States, who is currently spending, depending on the month or the year, about $1 trillion, give or take, on its military. On paper, the US is spending about 4 times more on its military than China is. It's like comparing the Los Angeles Dodgers payroll, which is standing at almost $600 million, to that of almost any average MLB team like the Milwaukee Brewers, who spend a measly like $130 million on their team. However, when you look at defense sector purchasing power parity, which is a fancy way of saying how many missiles can I buy for $1 here versus $1 there, the gap of this spending kind of vanishes. I mean, if a Chinese welder makes $15,000 a year, and an American welder at a Virginia shipyard makes $80,000, and they are both building the same hull, the cost of that ship is very different. Even do you think a reef is worth? I mean, in real estate terms, a submerged rock in the middle of the ocean it's a terrible investment. I'd never invest in that. There's no plumbing missile system in the northern Philippines. It has a range of about 1,600 kilometers. And do you know what is roughly 1,600 kilometers from the northern Philippines? Shanghai. Now, China isn't just sitting around watching this happen. They're mapping it out. In 2023, Beijing released a new 10-line map. Now, this map essentially claims 90% of the South China Sea as sovereign Chinese territory. And the economic ramifications of this map could be staggering. We're talking about $3.37 trillion in global trade that passes through these waters every single year. 3.3 trillion, that's a lot. That's roughly 21% of all global trade. If the South China Sea were a company, its revenue would be higher than the GDP of the United Kingdom. In March of 2025 alone, the Philippines saw its trade deficit with China widen to $4.13 billion. China is Manila's largest trading partner, by the way, supplying everything from the refined petroleum that runs their cars to the integrated circuits in their phones. It's a classic abusive relationship economy. So right now, China is contesting the Philippines' territorial water and therefore Philippine territory. For example, on August 11th of 2025, 2 Chinese ships, one being a Coast Guard and one being part of the Chinese Navy, were actively chasing a Philippine patrol boat. The 2 Chinese ships chased it and attempted some very dangerous maneuvers, and the Chinese ships crashed into one another, by the way, and this is all on video. Now, even though that may sound a little bit funny, it's actually a little bit scary because this was viewed by the United Nations as Philippine territorial water. And China was trying its best to kick out a Philippine boat from its own water. There was an event on December 12th of 2025 of Chinese ships using high-pressure water cannons against nearly 24 Filipino fishing boats, which injured 3 fishermen and damaged 2 fishing vessels. And China marked on the ground. It's more of a line of vague suggestions. Now, you may not have heard about this, but I remember it, so I had to include it. So in 2020, there were actual military skirmishes and battles between China and India. However, there were no guns used in this battle because of a 1996 treaty. So the soldiers literally fought each other with clubs and stones like it was 10,000 BC, and there was some video of this. And since then, there has been a disengagement. However, since 2020, get this, about 2,000 square kilometers of Indian land has been ceded to China. Now, I should say that the 2,000 square kilometer land claim by some governments is viewed as being a false statement. The reason for that 2,000 square kilometer claim actually came from, know this, However, those are just the clashes. There's also another kind of clash going on between India and China, and that's the infrastructure race. So, in September of 2025, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi broke ground on the $4.73 billion Arunachal Frontier Highway. It's a 1,840-kilometer road designed to, help vehicles move along the highway and also move T-90 tanks pretty fast. Meanwhile, China has built 628 defense villages along the line with India. Civilian settlements that can turn into military barracks faster than a suburban basement turns into a man cave when the new God of War comes out. Now, a lot more of the real combat is Japan's
planning to publish your book.
From Toyota's EV batteries to Sony's sensors and whatever the heck Nintendo wants to do lately, well, all of a sudden, those companies need to find some probably very expensive alternatives. The Senkaku Islands are 8 tiny uninhabited rocks. The total land area is about 7 square kilometers. You could fit the entire territory into New York's Central Park twice. And yet, in 2025, the Japan Coast Guard recorded 352 days where Chinese government vessels entered the contiguous zone around these rocks. So, why die for these rocks? Because the rocks come with exclusive economic zones. They're areas that Japan wants to potentially drill for billions, tens of billions of dollars worth of oil and gas. And more importantly, they come with positioning. But because China keeps trespassing on its neighbor's territory, Japan has noticed this and decided to up its military spending. For fiscal year 2026, the cabinet just approved a record $58 billion in defense spending, and a big chunk of that, or roughly $1.5 billion or so, is going towards the Type 12 surface-to-ship missiles. What are the range of these missiles? Well, 1,000 kilometers. If you were to put one of those missiles on Japan's Ishigaki Island, you can reach scent, the fastest in 15 years, largely fueled by shipping high-tech components to both sides of the Pacific Ocean. Now, China sees this and like, hey, we shouldn't be buying stuff from you guys. It's usually the other way. Usually you guys buy stuff from us. And so that's why China has been eyeing Taiwan. And that is also why Taiwan has been gearing up to defend itself. In December of 2025, the US approved an $11.1 billion arms sale to Taiwan, which, get this, is the largest single package in history. And these are not just like motor vehicles or tanks or armored cars. We're talking 82 HIMAR launchers and 420 ATA-CMF pan out of the way too. And that's just one way something like this could start. Maybe China does try to invade Taiwan, and that sparks the United States, the Philippines, and Japan to jump in. Maybe China has to draw troops away from India, giving India a chance to potentially push back China from its own border. And if war escalates like this, maybe some of China's allies, potentially North Korea, could also join in. And if that...
Okay. Any feedback on that? Anybody got anything? Okay.
Shalom, everyone. So he mentioned Taiwan and Philippines. Which were the other three? I know they was like surrounding
The islands, those little islands
the
around,
different islands around it.
they're trying to secure all that
Yes,
because they
sir.
know war's gonna break out and they don't want to have nothing or nowhere around close around them that they can the enemies can use. So they're gonna secure all that for
Yes,
themselves.
yes, sir. And this money you're talking 58 billion in defense, 11.5 billion in missiles, and then 11 point something billion in launchers. That's a whole lot of money.
Oh yeah,
Shalom.
exactly.
Shalom.
Okay.
Yes. By all that money coming out, I know they say, well, we put money aside for the launchers, the missiles, the military defense. But again, if we are so much in debt as the United States and they're doing all this money giving, they must be printing the money also to say to supply this money for those defense, and being that we are, like, again, in debt, and then they're saying China is the most profitable of trading and having all these assets. Why are they still, I had it on my mind about why they don't still, help them board that area where they keep coming in. And if they said 300 some odd entries into Japan's area, that should be something that they should have be able to sanction them on, or do something that will cause them to pay money into coming over that area.
Well, it's bullying, just like what America does. Just like what America just done with Venezuela. It was the whole thing was illegal, but they're getting away with it because of their position on the world stage. Oh yeah. Okay, here we go.
The United States military just pulled off an operation so intense, we haven't seen anything like it since the Second World War.
United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation, and it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II.
After the extradition of a major Sinaloa boss, 50 casualties hit the ground, and a chilling message was delivered straight to the White House. Chapo Isidro is stepping out of the shadows to warn Trump that land strikes will have a massive price. It's not that simple, though, because this isn't just about substances anymore. It's about a precedent that has every cartel leader terrified. Hands down, this is the most dangerous moment in modern border history.
I just finished developing the first stock trading tool of its kind.
The United States Armed Forces recently conducted an extraordinary military operation, and it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. After Mexico extradited the Sinaloa Plaza boss known as Kung Fu Panda, more than 50 people ended up dead. Now, the name of cartel leader Fausto Isidro is tied to a shocking execution threat aimed straight at Donald Trump. This extradition came only days after Trump openly warned that United States forces could begin striking cartels on Mexican soil. Within hours, cartel regions became unstable. Bodies began piling up, and a quiet shift inside Sinaloa exposed something far more dangerous than just simple retaliation. Since this all started a week and a half ago, it has left around 50 casualties and scenes of total destruction across Culiacan and the small villages surrounding it. This wasn't just about one arrest. It was about a precedent that cartel leaders believe puts them next on the list. This is why Fausto Isidro may have decided that the only way to stop it was to send a message directly to Washington. Many people remember when Trump said the United States had done almost everything it could at sea.
Comply.
The substance boats were being hit, and the routes were drying up. So, he said it was time to move the fight to the land. He claimed that substances by sea are down 97%. That is a massive number. He kept saying it in different interviews on different days, passing on the same message. The cartels were running Mexico, and something needed to be done about it. If Mexico couldn't stop them, the United States would. He openly stated that the cartels are running Mexico, whether people like it or not. He insisted that Mexico has to get its act together because the problem is pouring through the border, and the United States is going to have to do something. But here's the catch. What made that line different this time was when he said it just days after United States forces had gone into Venezuela and taken its president. Now, everyone knows there was no warning or buildup to that particular operation. The United States just went in and out in a matter of minutes. In total, more than 150 aircraft, including bombers, fighters, and surveillance planes, were in the air that night. Dramatic satellite images showed the damage caused on sites in Caracas during the strikes. Suddenly, Maduro was a prisoner of the United States and no longer a leader in his own right.
What's really going on with the government's terror policy?
Custody and held at a New York City detention center. That proved many things. One of which is that the previous narrative about Trump being all talk was totally wrong. So when he started talking about land strikes, people didn't hesitate to take him seriously. They immediately started asking where he was planning to hit. It's not that simple though, because in public, Mexico pushed back hard. The president said there would be no foreign troops or intervention on her land. She made it clear she would not gamble with her nation's sovereignty. But the mood behind the scenes was reportedly very different. It wasn't as if Mexico had descended into a state of chaos, but reports show there is an urgency in how they are now moving. Because if Trump was serious, Mexico had something to prove. They needed to show they still had control, and they needed to do it fast. But how do they plan to do that? And will it work to change Trump's mind? Yeah, about that. World leaders know that Trump controls one of the most powerful armies in the world. He has said it himself many times. That makes him dangerous, and everyone knows that, including the leaders in Mexico. So they had no choice but to figure out a way to give him what he wanted. They wanted to keep him from doing to their leadership what he did to Maduro. The Justice Department went public with a message that sounded like it was meant specifically for Mexico. They said that thanks to leadership, the cartels are no longer free to import poison into American communities. That message was received loud and clear. The crazy part is that in one single move, Mexico handed over 37 cartel figures to the United States. These were men pulled from different cells, different cartels, and different regions, all put on the same path north. Video shared by authorities shows a line of handcuffed prisoners being loaded onto a military jet. According to them, these 37 were high-impact criminals representing a real threat to security. Some were from the Sinaloa gang, and others were from the Jalisco New Generation cartel. But one of them stood out among the rest. His name was Roberto Najera Gutierrez, also known as Kung Fu Panda. Trump's land war. What most people don't realize is that Kung Fu Panda wasn't just a foot soldier. He moved massive amounts of narcotics across borders in boats from South America. He ran routes through Central America with loads that ended up in Atlanta, Chicago, Florida, New York, and California. When he landed in the United States, prosecutors called him a narco-terrorist. That word matters because just weeks earlier, the Sinaloa cartel had been labeled a terrorist organization. That label makes things a whole lot easier for the government. It is a move that can actually make it politically easier for a president to send troops to Mexico without the approval of Congress. And this isn't even new. Mexico had already sent 92 cartel figures to the United States in less than a year. Every situation stopped being strategic because something happened that hit very close to home. That is when he stopped just watching and started acting. Everyone's obsessed with the big names like El Chapo, but Fausto Isidro is the one who actually knows how to survive. Something happened just before he gave the order for the violence, and it was more than just the extradition of Kung Fu Panda. Once you know that, his threats to Trump suddenly make a lot of sense. Under pressure from the United States, Mexico has been applying similar pressure to Isidro's inner circle. Just in December of last year, Marines tracked one of his most trusted pillars to a small town. When the helicopters came in, the pillar opened fire, and the Navy fired back. Minutes later, he was gone. Isidro's hidden empire. They didn't stop there, though. Weeks after that, another man who officials called a narco-terror leader was arrested. These were the people who held territory for Isidro while he stayed invisible. They were wiped off the board in less than a month. Then came the extradition of Kung Fu Panda. Put together, the message was very clear. If the government was willing to eliminate one pillar, arrest another, and hand a boss to Washington, then Isidro knew he was being boxed in. And that is not something the cartels can allow. So, here's the deal. The cartels are now fighting for their very existence against a government that is more afraid of Trump than they are of the narcos. Trump's success in Venezuela sent a shockwave through the underworld. They realize that the old rules don't apply anymore. If a president can be snatched from his own palace, a cartel leader in a mountain hideout is not safe. Chapo Isidro's warning to Trump is a desperate attempt to draw a line in the sand. He wants the United States to know that if they keep pushing, the border will become a permanent war zone.
I can turn your wildest.
Okay. Anybody got anything on that? What do you think? The cartel just threatened Trump. Anybody heard anything about that?
Shalom. I didn't hear anything about it, but I was just looking it up. Yes, sir. It's like if he's gonna get a war some way, somehow, and messing with the cartels, that's real intimate. They want their drugs, they want their money, that's their way of life.
Okay. Anybody else?
Shalom, everyone. Yes, sir. Shalom, everyone. How I look at it is so ironic that he's going for that when, again, we remember that the biggest drug cartel person was here in the United States, locked up, and then he let him go. So I'm not understanding how they're saying they're really like you pushing us, but they already let the main one go back to where he's at, doing more drugs, selling more drugs and weapons or whatever they're doing. And then when they said that the drugs on the sea are coming in, it's 90% taken care of. That was before. That's when they were shooting or aiming at those little ships that were in those boats that were in the water and saying that they have destroyed the drug boats. So how fast can you just like if you hit two boats out there, now your drug intake into the United States, stopping it is at 90%. There's a lot of calculations that they're throwing these numbers out that doesn't make sense to me. How fast that can drop just by two boats being attacked. And then here we are with the drug cartels. They're number three. They run that place. And for them to say they're getting scared of Trump, and they're using Trump, and Trump is not really doing anything but signing a paper, barking out some orders, but he really is not doing anything. They're using his name, and where they saying that I'm going too long. I'm sorry, but I just really don't see that they're scared of him. I really don't.
Okay. Anybody else?
Shalom. I just want to say, when Cheryl, when you say scared of them, they don't have missiles. The US is very strong. They can take out a country. They can take out anything if they want to, so I could see why they would be scared. Shalom.
Right. He said that the move that he made was what they just saw, what he done to the president of Venezuela. He talked all that head, but overnight they had snatched him up. And so now when Trump make a threat now, it's to the government of Mexico. So now they looking at they can be scooped up. So they have to, in turn, they started attacking the cartels. That's where the drama coming in. They have to make a decision whether they're gonna give way to the cartels, or they're gonna pay attention to what Trump is doing? Because if they look up, they'll be gone. He come in and scoop them up like he did. So that message been sent out to all the surrounding countries around here. That he come in and scoop them up. So he didn't change the whole game when it comes to that. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, we've been dealing with this Black Star Line. I got a little update on that. So
Too small to matter. A cluster of routine holds at the port and 2 inland checkpoints. A red stamp, a missing signature, a request for additional verification. On paper, it was bureaucracy slow, familiar, almost boring. In Traore's mind, it was the sound of a chokehold tightening, because the containers weren't filled with luxury goods. They carried medicine, powdered milk, spare parts for water pumps, and industrial inputs that kept factories from stalling. When those containers stopped moving, panic didn't wait for explanations. Prices jumped on rumors alone. Traders began whispering that supplies were drying up. Families started buying extra, not because they needed it today, but because fear told them tomorrow was uncertain. Traore read the customs log and noticed the pattern. The holds were random, but always on the same categories, essentials that touched daily life. And the stamps:
here's the drink that flushes the sugar out of your veins and makes poor circulation disappear.
Same phrasing, same timing, like a hand practicing control without showing its face. Then an aide brought a second file. Shipping manifests with anomalies container IDs that matched, weights that didn't, routes that made no sense. The kind of mismatch that suggested a swap had happened somewhere between the port gate and the inland yard. Traore felt a cold certainty settle. This wasn't a delay. It was a test of whether Burkina Faso would beg, pay, or break. He lifted his eyes from the paperwork and spoke quietly. Tonight, he said, we don't fight trucks. We fight the invisible gatekeeper behind the stamp. The operations room filled with the kind of tension that never made the evening news. Supply chain panic, not gunfire. A map of corridors replaced a map of front lines. Port gates, inland depots, border posts, each point a potential choke, each delay a tax on ordinary life. Traore watched the data stream in. Container numbers, hold codes, stamped reasons, additional verification, document mismatch, random inspection. The language was standardized the way threats were standardized, polite words hiding sharp intent. He asked for the time series, not just what was held, but when. A logistics analyst projected a chart. The holds clustered in waves, always just before market days in major cities. Traore felt the pattern lock into place. They're not trying to stop supply permanently, he thought. They're trying to spike prices at the worst moment and blame the government for it. A customs director on secure line defended his office. Mr. President.
So what has happened is, like I said, he brought those ships over to Jamaica and to that region, and they put a blockade up trying to stop him from docking. But now they starting to put out all these propaganda lies, like we saw yesterday that it was supposed to be missiles in there, and not only that, we come to find out that they doing all this because of the Jamaican government. From my understanding is they want to sell all this stuff and jack the price up on it and make money off of it. But like I said, just keep an eye on it. Anybody else have anything or heard anything about it? Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna go to my Q&A. Anybody have any questions, comments about anything? Any dialogue, testimony? You want to shine a light on?
Shalom, everybody. Shalom, Brother Leonard. Brother Leonard, I seen today that that or yesterday a video that Russia was making a deal with the US in US dollars versus the BRICS currency. It's supposed to be a $12 trillion deal.
Right.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that and why they would do that? I thought they were supposed to be a part of bringing the dollar down.
Yeah, I think it's propaganda. You know, they're trying to throw the BRICS, throw the big countries in a cross to make them think that they getting Putin is making a deal behind their back, or they're trying to throw them in a cross. They're doing the same. They doing the same thing with the dude Monday or whatever his name is in India. They keep putting all this stuff out as if he got some kind of side deal or some kind of agreement with the United States as far as when it comes to the agreement that BRICS have. So I'm thinking it's propaganda.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because it don't add up to me. It doesn't make no sense. Yeah.
And Brother Leonard, I seen too that part of that deal. I mean, if it was to go through, it's supposed to involve Ukraine. Supposed to be for the for those same minerals that they're supposed to be disagreeing upon.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then, like I said, if it is some kind of deal he making with them, it's a setup, and believe me, the BRICS countries then already conversed about it. You know what I'm saying? So, but I think it's propaganda. Okay. Anybody else got anything you want to shine a light on? Talk about? Okay. Anybody have nothing? You can play this. Okay.
Introduced.
Sent a small team of troops to Nigeria, which marks the first acknowledged presence of American forces on ground since US launched airstrikes last Christmas. According to the head of US Africa Command, the team was deployed after both countries agreed to do so, and this to counter the terrorist threat in West Africa. The size and scope of the mission, however, have not been disclosed yet.
You're scrolling through your phone, and suddenly the headlines start flooding in. U.S. troops deployed to Nigeria. American warships strike targets in Africa. Trump warns of more military action. If you're Nigerian or anywhere in Africa, your first reaction might be, hold on, what exactly is happening? Because the version being told in Western media, that's only part of the story. On Christmas Day 2025, U.S. warships in the Gulf of Guinea launched missile strikes into Sokoto State. Days later, the Pentagon confirmed that 200 American troops would deploy to Nigerian soil. And as you're watching this, U.S. military advisors are already operating inside Africa's most populous nation. So this raises a serious question. Is this counterterrorism? Is this strategic positioning? Or is this the beginning of something much bigger? President Trump says the mission is about protecting Christians from extremist violence. The Nigerian government describes it as a security partnership, a joint effort to fight terrorism. Both explanations sound straightforward, but Nigeria is also one of Africa's largest oil producers. It sits on critical mineral reserves, including lithium, a resource essential for electric vehicles and battery technology. And it's the anchor of West Africa's political and economic stability. Meanwhile, the conflict in northern Nigeria has been burning for over 16 years. More than 40,000 people have died. Millions have been displaced. And the violence isn't as simple as many headlines suggest. So the real question isn't just why are U.S. troops there? It's this. What are America's long-term strategic interests in Nigeria? What does Nigeria gain from this partnership? And in this long war, who is actually paying the highest price? Let's break it down. On October 7th, 2025, President Trump posted on Truth Social, "We will stop the Christian genocide in Nigeria." He warned that if the killings did not stop, the United States would impose what he called exceptionally strong sanctions. The message sent shockwaves through Abuja. Nigeria's government publicly pushed back, insisting the crisis was not a religious genocide, but a complex insurgency involving extremist groups, criminal networks, and long-running regional instability. Social media exploded, analysts debated, diplomats went quiet. Then came December 25th, Christmas Day. U.S. naval forces operating in the Gulf of Guinea launched missile strikes against what the Pentagon described as ISIS-affiliated targets in Sokoto State. In an official statement, the Department of Defense said the operation eliminated high-value terrorists allegedly planning attacks against American interests. But early reports raised serious questions. Nigerian officials indicated they had not been formally notified in advance of the strikes. If true, that would mean something extraordinary. A foreign military power conducting kinetic operations inside Africa's most populous nation without clear public coordination. And that changes the conversation completely, because this is no longer just about terrorism, it's about sovereignty. Communities are under attack. Muslims and many other innocent citizens have also been victims of the same cruelty. They use the word genocide cautiously, saying allegations of genocide have emerged in some quarters. But they immediately added that Muslims are dying too. These are Nigerian bishops on the ground, watching their own people die, and they're still honest enough to say this isn't just about Christians. So why is Trump pushing the genocide narrative? Because it's simple, emotional, and politically powerful. Christians are being slaughtered, gets attention in a way that complex resource conflict exacerbated by climate change and state failure does not. I'm not saying Christians aren't suffering. They are. I'm not saying the violence isn't real. It is. What I'm saying is that the narrative of a systematic Muslim genocide against Christians is false. The evidence simply doesn't support it. So what is really going on? What does the U.S. want? Well, 2 days ago, February 10th, Republican lawmakers in the U.S. Congress introduced a bill with a very revealing name, the Nigeria Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026. Sounds noble, right? Religious freedom. Who could be against that? But buried in that bill is a section that has nothing to do with churches or persecution. It's about Chinese mining operations. The bill explicitly calls on the U.S. Secretary of State to counter what it describes as the hostile foreign exploitation of Chinese illegal mining operations and their practice of paying protection money to Fulani militias. Think about that for a second. A bill supposedly about protecting Christians contains language targeting Chinese mining companies. Why?
See what I mean? Like all of a sudden they're supposed to be dealing with Christians, but they passing throwing all kind of negative crosses at China. This is what it's all about. That's the reason they went into Honduras. I mean, not Honduras, but they went and got the president from Nicaragua. They went and got him because of the oil Chinese is using it. They taking the oil because it's not as good as oil. They was using it, getting it for a cheap price, and they was turning around and refining it, and they was making it. They was using it to help keep their Road and Belt initiative going, and the U.S. looked at that and saw that, so they went in illegally and did what they done. And so this is what they do. Everything they doing now is they see that America is collapsing, and they trying to do everything they can to cut it off, and they blaming China for it. The rise of China.
Because Nigeria is sitting on a fortune, and China got there first. Let me break down the numbers. Nigeria has lithium reserves worth over $34 billion. That makes it the 5th largest lithium reserve in the world. Some deposits contain up to 13% lithium oxide content. To put that in perspective, mining companies usually start exploration when they find 0.4%. Nigeria has deposits 30 times higher than that. Lithium isn't just a valuable mineral, it's the future. Every electric vehicle battery needs it. Every solar energy storage system needs it.
If you are sleeping in a position like this,
Every piece of clean energy technology depends on lithium. By 2030, 95% of lithium demand will be for batteries. And where is most of Nigeria's lithium? In the north-central states such as Nasarawa, Plateau, and Kaduna. These are exactly where the security crisis is worst, exactly where Lakurawa operates, and exactly where the U.S. fired missiles on Christmas Day.
Exactly.
Now, who's been mining this lithium? Chinese companies. In May 2024, the Kaduna state government inaugurated a lithium processing plant in partnership with a Chinese company called Mingxin Mineral Separation. Chinese.
Okay, so like I said, that's what all it's about. When you gotta really understand is we already at war. We're just at the beginning rings of it, but it's already a war going on. Okay, anybody got any comments on that? Okay, got my topic for discussion. Like I said, I'm always dealing with this reparation thing. So here we go.
Centuries of systemic racism have created a wealth gap in America between Black and white Americans. In her latest New York Times piece, Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter Nicole Hannah-Jones writes, if true justice and equality are ever to be achieved in the United States, the country must finally take seriously what it owes Black Americans. MSNBC correspondent Tremaine Lee interviewed Nicole Hannah-Jones in his latest Into America podcast on reparations. Tremaine joins me now. And Tremaine, what are the factors that Nicole talked about here that are contributing or have contributed to the racial wealth gap in our country?
Hey, Allison, more than just a contribution, the actual source, the root of the wealth gap goes back to shortly after emancipation, when the entire, enslaved population, formerly enslaved population, really were pushed out with absolutely nothing, starting from ground zero. And even though the government had promised some restitution in 40 acres and a mule, those promises fell through. And in fact, the former, plantation owners were given back that land that had been promised to enslaved people. But then after that, decades and decades of Jim Crow laws, lack of access to jobs, depressed housing values, on and on, up from after emancipation through Reconstruction, Redemption, into the 50s and 60s. All of these contributing factors, including the actual violent dispossession of wealth, the actual bombing of Black Wall Street, the actual burning and looting of Black communities all across the country. And that land and that wealth and resources were never returned.
So how do we begin to close the gap between Black and white Americans, and what would closing that gap mean for Black Americans, their future, their economic security?
Well, part of the issue has always been that Black folks haven't been able to accumulate the wealth and then pass it on, like buying a house and then passing it on to your children, or taking the equity out of that and passing it on. And so Nicole Hannah-Jones argues that there is only one solution, and that's restitution or reparations. Let's take a listen to what she has to say.
Imagine, I've been a pastor for over 20 years. This is a very
When economists sit down with calculators, historical records, and compound interest tables to figure out what America actually owes Black people for 400 years of slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, mass incarceration, and systemic theft, the number isn't $50,000. It's not $100,000. It's not even $500,000. The actual debt, when you account for stolen labor, stolen land, stolen wealth, and stolen futures, comes out to approximately $1.2 million per Black American. And the fact that this number makes people uncomfortable proves exactly why it needs to be paid. What's good, family? Welcome back to Chronicles of Blacks, where we don't just talk about reparations as a moral issue. We break down the math, the history, and the receipts that prove this is a debt, not a handout. I'm your host, and if this is your first time here, understand that we're not here to debate whether reparations are owed. That question was answered the moment the first enslaved Africans set foot on this soil. We're here to calculate exactly how much is owed, why that number keeps growing, and what it would take to actually repair the harm that's been done. Before we get into why $1.2 million per Black American is not an exaggeration, but a conservative estimate, why the wealth gap exists in the first place, and what paying this debt would mean for America's future, make sure you hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that financial justice matters and that we're not going to stop demanding what's owed. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now, because we're building a community of people who understand that until the debt is paid, this country will never be whole. Let me start by laying out the foundation, because reparations are not a new concept. They're not radical, and they're not unprecedented. After World War II, the United States helped establish reparations for Jewish survivors of the Holocaust. Germany has paid over $89 billion in reparations since 1952, and those payments continue today. In 1988, the United States government passed the Civil Liberties Act, which provided reparations to Japanese Americans who were incarcerated in internment camps during World War II. Each survivor received $20,000 and a formal apology. The total cost was $1.6 billion. In 2014, the United Nations called for reparations to be paid to descendants of enslaved Africans in the Americas, citing the lasting effects of slavery and colonialism. In 2019, the city of Evanston, Illinois, became the first city in the United States to establish a reparations program for Black residents, providing housing assistance funded by a tax on cannabis sales. In 2021, the state of California established a reparations task force to study the issue and make recommendations. Their preliminary report, released in 2023, estimated that the state owes Black residents up to $1.2 million each, based on housing discrimination alone. That number doesn't even include slavery, Jim Crow, or mass incarceration. It's just housing. And yet, people act like reparations are impossible.
Listen, again, we had over...
They exist because the debt has never been paid. They exist because Black people are still living with the consequences of policies that were designed to harm us. And they exist because white people refuse to acknowledge the harm that was done and take responsibility for repairing it. Paying reparations wouldn't create division. It would begin to heal it. And finally, some people say that we don't know who should receive reparations, that it's too complicated to figure out who qualifies. But that's a lie. We know who qualifies. Anyone who can trace their ancestry to enslaved Africans in the United States qualifies. Anyone who has been harmed by Jim Crow, redlining, mass incarceration, or systemic racism qualifies. And the government has the resources to verify lineage and distribute payments. They did it for Japanese Americans. They did it for Holocaust survivors. They can do it for Black Americans. So here's my message to America. The debt is real. The number is $1.2 million per Black American. And every day that you delay payment, that number grows. You can make excuses. You can claim you can't afford it. You can say it's too complicated. But the truth is that you owe us. You owe us for the labor that built this country. You owe us for the land that was stolen. You owe us for the wealth that was denied. You owe us for the opportunities that were taken. And you owe us for the futures that were destroyed.
Watch what happens to brown fat when you drink this.
You will never have peace. You will never have unity. And you will never have the moral authority to call yourself the land of the free. And here's my message to Black America. This is not a dream. This is not a fantasy. This is a debt that is owed, and it's a debt that can be paid. The number is $1.2 million per person, and that number is based on documented harm, historical records, and economic analysis. It's not an exaggeration. It's a conservative estimate. Not begged for it, demanded. Because it's owed. And we deserve it. We deserve to be whole. We deserve to build wealth. We deserve to pass something down to our children. And we deserve to live in a country that acknowledges the harm that was done and takes responsibility for repairing it. I also want to say this. Reparations are not the end. They're the beginning. They're the first step in a long process of healing, rebuilding, and creating a society that is truly just and equal. But they're a necessary step Because without reparations, without acknowledging the debt and paying what's owed, there can be no healing, there can be no justice, and there can be no future where Black people are truly free. So here's what we need to do. We need to organize. We need to educate. We need to demand. We need to make reparations a central issue in every political conversation, every policy debate, and every election. We need to support organizations that are fighting for reparations. We need to amplify the voices of scholars, activists, and leaders who are doing the work. And we need to hold our elected officials accountable. If they're not supporting reparations, they're not supporting us.
Okay. Any feedback on that? Anybody got anything? What you think?
Shalom. Shalom, everybody. Shalom, Brother Leonard. So a lot was said in there. Brother Leonard, from a scripture perspective, the fighting back to get things done, is that even something we need to be worried about? I don't feel like that's what we're supposed to be doing, is even if it's peacefully. So that was my question, and I had some comments, but that's my question in regards to this clip, as far as holding people accountable, because we can see right now that holding people accountable is not something that anybody in the government is really paying attention to, which is accountability.
Right. That's the Lord of hosts is the judge. He's the
Yes,
one going to make them accountable. We are above our pay grade trying to deal with that. It's the same way with Joseph told him, he's coming to deliver you, and you're gonna leave here, you know, and you're gonna leave here in good standing. And so they went about their business, and then what the Lord had prophesied overtook them. And that's what's happening now. All we have to do is get ourselves together, and the things that we revealed to us, deal with that and then the Lord is going to do what He's going to do. When the fighting and everything, we ain't got to fight. We ain't got to do nothing. All we have to do is stand still, like He told them at the Red Sea.
Yes, sir. And when I hear stuff like that, more lately than ever now, it's like it doesn't make sense to me to even try to go out and vote and do anything, because we can see right now, Democrat, Republican, independent or not, nobody's doing what they need to be doing collectively. Right. There might be one person trying, but that one person ain't even cutting it. So it just does not appear like it's up to us to do anything at this point.
Right.
But keep learning like we're doing, like you said before, and following our customs and the laws from the Lord of hosts, not going out and voting.
Exactly.
Also, Brother Leonard, yes, sir.
Nah, go ahead.
From what he said, it tickled me when he talked about, the government can go back and figure out who's what. I'm like, we don't need to figure out nothing. I'm young enough to know that my grandmother is a sharecropper. We actually don't need you to figure out nothing. We know who was brought over here and who was a slave. It didn't happen thousands of years ago. It happened a long time ago. But it's not like figuring out like they do now. It's always a question of, when people try to claim that they're Native American, well, how can you prove it? What do you mean, how can you prove it? Just look at where the people stand. Like, if this was really an issue, it's not that hard to figure out who came over here. It's just not that hard. You don't need any type of government records actually to prove it. If I know my grandmother and my great grandmother, some of these people still alive, and they can speak on it themselves. That means anybody who's still alive after them also deserves that 1 point whatever million. And then what surprised me is he's saying that number, but he said in his own clip, that's only housing. That has nothing to do with everything else. And that number, to do with the research California had almost 2 years ago now, is only based on housing. How unfair they were to the people, our ancestors, currently in California, and how every person in California is owed that much only based on discrimination and bias from housing, not from work, not from forced labor, not from unfair payment for their work. That's a huge number. And we've talked about on this channel before that those that help the Israelites and lean on the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, will also be those that will be okay. And it's interesting to see, even like how you played yesterday in the class, how there are some other people whose eyes are being opened, and by other people, non-Israelites, their eyes are being opened. And it's just going to be interesting to how whatever group of people in America play their role and how they play it. But it's that whole part about needing the government to prove who's who. That's ridiculous to me. This isn't millions of years ago. It's not that hard to figure out who came over here. They could have paid reparations at any time. When California had that research, they could have been paying it by now. It's not that hard to figure out.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna start reading we read our 5 chapters on Sundays. So we're in the book of Isaiah, and we're gonna start reading chapter 1 through 5. Do you want to read chapter 1, Anita?
Yes, sir. Shalom. Isaiah chapter 1. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people does not consider. All sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger, and they are gone away backward. Why should ye be stricken any more? You will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart faint. From the sole of the foot even unto the head, there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. Your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Your land, strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate, as overthrown by strangers. And the daughter of Zion is left as a cottage in a vineyard, as a lodge in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. Except the Lord of hosts have left unto us a very small remnant. We should have been as Sodom, and we should have been like unto Gomorrah. Hear the word of the Lord, ye rulers of Sodom. Give ear unto the law of our God, ye people of Gomorrah. To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me, saith the Lord? I am full of the burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed beasts, and I delight not in the blood of bullocks or of lambs or of he-goats. When you come to appear before me, who hath required this at your hand, to tread my courts? Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. The new moons and Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot. Away with it. It is iniquity, even the solemn meeting. Your new moons and your appointed feasts, my soul hateth. They are a trouble unto me, and I am weary to bear them. And when ye spread forth your hands, I will hide mine eyes from you. Yea, when you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before mine eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do well. Seek judgment. Relieve the oppressed. Judge the fatherless. Plead for the widow. Come now and let us reason together, said the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool. If ye be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land. But if ye refuse and rebel, Ye shall be devoured with the sword, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. How is the faithful city become a harlot? It was full of judgment, righteousness lodged in it, but now murderers. Thy silver is become dross, thy wine mixed with water. Thy princes are rebellious and companions of thieves. Everyone loveth gifts and followeth after rewards. They judge not the fatherless, neither does the cause of the widow come unto them. Therefore saith the Lord of hosts, the mighty one of Israel, I will ease me of mine adversaries and avenge me of mine enemies. I will turn my hand upon thee and purely purge away thy dross and take away all thy tint. And I will restore thy judges as at the first and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with judgment, and her converts with righteousness. And the destruction of the transgressors and of the sinners shall be together, and they that forsake the Lord shall be consumed. For they shall be ashamed of the oaks which ye have desired, and ye shall be confounded for the gardens that ye have chosen. For you shall be as an oak whose leaf fadeth, and as a garden that hath no water. And the strong shall be as tow, and the maker of it as a spark, and they shall both burn together, and none shall quench them. That was Isaiah chapter 1. Shalom.
Okay. Yeah, so we see right here in Isaiah, like I said, Isaiah and Jeremiah is both talking about the same event, that Israel have turned away from the Lord and that he's coming to judge them for their wrongdoings. Okay. So that's the stage right here that's being set in the book of Isaiah. Do you want to read chapter 2, Joyce?
Shalom, everyone. Yes, sir. Chapter 2, Isaiah. The word that Isaiah, the son of Amoz, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountains of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all the nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his path. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up swords against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. O house of Jacob, come ye and let us walk in the light of the Lord. Verse 6, therefore thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they be replenished from the east and are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they please themselves in the children of strangers. Their land also is full of silver and gold, neither is there any end of their treasures. Their land is also full of horses, neither is there any end of their chariots. Their land also is full of idols. They worship the work of their own hands, that which their own fingers have made. And the mean man boweth down, and the great man humbleth himself. Therefore forgive them not. Verse 10, enter into the rock and hide thee in the dust for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty. The lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down, and the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. For the day of the Lord of hosts shall be upon every one that is proud and lofty, and upon every one that is lifted up, and he shall be brought low. And upon all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, and upon all the oaks of Bashan, and upon all the high mountains, and upon all the hills that are lifted up. Verse 15, and upon every high tower, and upon every fence wall, and upon all the ships of Tarshish, and upon all pleasant pictures. And the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the haughtiness of men shall be made low. And the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day, and the idols he put utterly abolished, and they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. In that day a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made each one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats, to go into the clefts of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty when he arise to shake terribly the earth. Cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils, for wherein he is he to be accounted of. That was Isaiah chapter 2.
Okay, and feedback.
Well, it's said often about the loftiness and the haughtiness of man over and over, and what the Lord of hosts is going to do to these idol worshipers and these ones that are turning away from him. So,
Okay. Right. So I want to shine light on make a point. Okay. 19 says, they shall go into the holes of the rocks. And this is when Nebuchadnezzar, he's going to bring Nebuchadnezzar. This is what I was talking about with Judith, in the book of Judith. And they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty. Now here you go. When he shall arise to shake the terribly the earth. Then we see it again in 21. To go into the cliffs of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks for fear of the Lord, for the glory of his majesty, when he shall arise and shake terribly the earth. So you say, what is he talking about? Go to Ezekiel 37. Right? And you see it right here. 37, and we go to verses 7. This is the dry bones. So I prophesied as he commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a great shaking. See that? And bone came together. So this right here is a clue to tell you when the shaking they come right here. When he do this right here, we know that's the end. And then it's not just a regular shaking; it's the shaking in the whole earth. The whole earth gonna shake. And then we see it again in 38. You know, and a lot of people I don't see that make this connection. So then it says, and let me get it. And so you can see in 38, God and Magog, this great army then showed up, right? Okay. So then you get over here to let me find it. Yeah, in 18, and it shall come to pass at the same time when God shall come against the land of Israel. Check it out. And it shall come to pass at the same time God shall come up against Israel, said the Lord, that my fury shall come up in my face, and in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken it. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel. So that shaking is he resurrecting the army.
yes, sir. I see that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thank
So
you. Yes,
anyway,
sir.
Brittany, you want to read 3?
Yes, sir. I'll read chapter 3. On the wrong page. Isaiah chapter 3. For behold, the Lord of hosts, doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread, and the whole stay of water, the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet, and the prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50 and the honorable man, and the counselor, and the cunning artificer, and the eloquent orator. And I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. When a man shall take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, Thou hast clothing, be thou our ruler, and let this ruin be under thy hand. In that day shall he swear, saying, I will not be an healer, for in my house is neither bread nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of the people. For Jerusalem is ruined, and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory. The show of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. Say ye to the righteous, that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hands shall be given him. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. The Lord standeth up to plead, and standeth to judge the people. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people, and the princes thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard. The spoil of the poor is in your houses. What mean ye that ye beat my people to pieces, and grind the faces of the poor, saith the Lord of hosts. Moreover, the Lord said, because the daughters of Zion are haughty, and walk with stretched forth necks, and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet. Therefore the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. In that day the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet, and their calls, and their round tires like the moon, the chains, and the bracelets, and the mufflers, the bonnets, and the ornaments of the legs, and the headbands, and the tablets, and the earrings, the rings, and nose jewels, the changeable suits of apparel, and the mantles, and the wimples, and the crisping pins, the glasses, and the fine linen, and the hoods, and the veils. And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell, there shall be a stink, and instead of a girdle, a rent, and instead of a well-set hair, baldness, and instead of a stomacher, a girdling of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. Thy man shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in the war. And her gates shall lament and mourn, and she, being desolate, shall sit upon the ground. Shalom, that was Isaiah chapter 3.
Okay, you got any feedback on that?
Yes, sir. So twice that we know who this is. In the very beginning, it says, behold, for the Lord of hosts, does take away from Jerusalem and from Judah. And when it goes on to list everything that's being taken away, Brother Leonard, you've mentioned this many times in the classes, that when the other nations came, the Gentiles came, they continually took away the high people. And it tells us that the mighty man, the man of war, the judge, the prophet, the prudent, the ancient, so everybody that could go back and had strength and and even the prophets that had word from the Lord of hosts was just going out of the midst of the Israelites.
Okay, that's it. Okay, yeah. This the chapter where you see a lot of conversations about the daughters of Zion, and in 16 to 21, and all that's going on is that these women has gotten outside of they role. And so the Lord of hosts came and he took away the men, destroyed the men because of that, in order to chastise them, to get them right. He took away the men because he brought about he used them, and all the things that he's listing right here was through the men of war. They was able to get these things, and so they got beside themselves because they had them, and they cast him to the side, and so he came back for judgment. He judged the men, and you can see that in verse 24. He says, "And it shall come to pass that instead of a sweet smell, there shall be a stench, instead of a girdle rent, and instead of a well-set hair, baldness, instead of stomach, a girdle of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty." Then here it goes, 25. "Thy men shall fall by the sword," this is Nebuchadnezzar, "and thy mighty men in war, and her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall be upon the ground." So what do you mean by her being desolate? He took away her bride, the husband. He took it away by war. And he did that by bringing up Nebuchadnezzar and Nebuchadnezzar's army. Okay?
Yes,
So,
sir.
okay.
So in verse 18, sorry for the feedback. In the day the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling. So is verse 18 basically summarizing what you said, that in order to take this away, I took away the men from the women of Israel?
Right. And
Okay.
that verse is talking about jewelry that they have on their feet. It says, "The day the Lord will take away the bravery of the tinkling of your ornaments about your feet." That's the little thing, the little bracelets that women wear on their feet.
Yes, sir.
So they got all that. When you understand how that works, these men go out to battle, go out to war, and then all these things are the spoils of war, and they bring all these things back to the women, and they only because the Lord is with them when they go to battle, and they're able to acquire these things because He's providing it for them, and so they got beside themselves. So He took it away. So the way to take it away, He brought Nebuchadnezzar, and Nebuchadnezzar came, destroyed Jerusalem, and then not only that, killed all the men, killed up the men. Okay.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, sir.
So chapter 4, do you want to read that? Somebody got something?
Yes, sir. Excuse me. I just wanted to reference in chapter 3, verse 2, when we talk about mighty men being the giants, and then now these mighty men, is this is in verse 2, is that a mighty man giant, or is that just the mighty man? Because it says the mighty man and the man of war.
Right. So these giants and men of war.
Yes,
like
sir.
For example, you got David had his brother was when they went to war, if you know the story, David father sent him to go take his three brothers food on the front line. That's how David came in contact with Goliath. He saw Goliath when he went to take bread and rations to his brothers. His brothers was men of war. They wasn't mighty men, they wasn't giants, but they was men of war, just like David. David is a man of war. The Lord says David is a man after his own heart. So David, Lord of hosts is a man of war. He got a sword. David got a sword. So that's what he's talking about. But these mighty men, you can see them right here, and example is right here. The men of war is the men of Israel in his army. But the mighty men is in 2 Samuel, I think it is. 2 Samuel, yeah. Let me get it right quick. I think it's yeah. Yeah, the 2 Samuel 23 and verse 8, start at verse 8. These are the names of the mighty men whom David had. Then you see they're not Israelites, these giants. The Tishmanite that sat in the seat among the captains. The same was Dino, the Ezonite. He lifted up his spear against 800 meetings. So this ain't no regular man. He lifted up his spear against 800, whom he slew at one time. So no one man can't do that. These giants, he killed 800. So David had 30, if I'm not mistaken, 38 mighty men. 37. Let me see how it say. It gives a number. Yeah, I think it's 38. 38 mighty men. As a matter of fact, the last one, 39, verse 39, Uriah, the Hittite. 37, there it is. Uriah the Hittite, and 7 in all. And 30 and 7 in all. It was 37. So these are mighty men you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you want to read chapter 4, AJ?
Yes, sir. Shalom.
4 and 5 is only got, yeah.
You said 4 and 5?
It's only 6 verses in 4.
Okay, right. Yes, sir. It says the beautiful branch of the Lord. In that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we shall eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name and take away our reproach. In that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, and even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. When the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. And the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense, and there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a covert from the storm and from rain. And shalom. That was Isaiah chapter 4.
Yeah, so I want to shine light on what I just talked about the Lord used. He came, brought Nebuchadnezzar, and he chastised the women, but was killing the men. And then you go to chapter 4, the answer is in verse 1. In that day, so this after he done this, in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, because ain't that many men there. You can kill them all. See that? It says in that day, seven women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel, only let us be called by thy name. So go back to Naomi. When she lost her husband, she lost her name. So she needs somebody to come in. They need a kismet to come in and fill that void. And then not only that, Ruth and the other woman, their husbands, they lost their husband. So when you understand that, this is what's going on right here. Okay, so you any comments?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Yes, sir. I always thought that was coming in the I've always heard the interpretation of Isaiah 4 and 1 coming in the future. But yeah, so
Right.
I just learned something new right there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about Isaiah and Jeremiah. I ain't talking to us. He talking about our forefathers. It's certain verses you'll get to, you can write, you'll see that it's bigger than what is going on. But when you follow a narrative like right here, the judgment of the women of Zion, it's already happened. It's because of what these women had going on at the time. That's the whole purpose of Isaiah. He called Isaiah out to warn the Israelites, our forefathers, not us, that they was in error, and he's gonna bring Nebuchadnezzar. So he brought him. After he brought him, they killed off a bunch of men. Then in verse 4, chapter 4, verse 1, ain't that many women, ain't that many men. The women ain't going to war. The men going to war. That's how. So they coming up. They being annihilated. There's all kind of women, because they in Jerusalem. They ain't fighting. And that's where the problem came in. Okay, you gonna read chapter 5?
Shalom, sir. I'm sorry. I just wanted to add or ask a question or make a comment. Also, losing the name, being able to bear children now, and to when they went out for war, being able to have a protector as well. Shalom.
Exactly. That's what he doing. Like he said, if you do right, then he's gonna do right by them. He's gonna protect their men and protect. And the same way with the men, they don't do right by him. They got to go. That's how it all falls. That's how you understand the order.
Yes, sir.
Right. The man a Lord, he a Lord. Just like I said, which Lord you gotta understand which Lord he talking to and when and what when you're dealing with scripture. Okay. You gonna read chapter 5?
Right. Yes, sir. And it says, the vineyard of wild grapes. Now will I sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved, touching his vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard and a very fruitful hill, and he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof, and planted it with the choicest vine, and built the tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, between me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, and brought it forth wild grapes. And now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste, and it shall not be pruned nor digged. But there shall come up briars and thorns, and I will also command the clouds, that they rain no rain upon it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but hold a cry. Woe
Let's
unto
look at that. Let's look at that right quick. So
sir.
like I was saying, when you follow the narrative, what's going on, he just told you, the Lord of hosts, the nation of Israel is a vineyard. But notice what he just said. When I was just pertaining to what I just said over here about the daughters of Zion, he says, for the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the plant. See that? The plant. And I looked in judgment, for behold, I skipped it. It says, start at 5. And now go to, I will tell thee what I shall do to my vineyard. I will take away the head thereof, and it shall be eaten up. This Nebuchadnezzar coming. And I shall break down the wall. That's the wall in 925 thereof, and it shall be trodden down. That's the Chaldeans. And I will lay it to waste, and it shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. And I will also command the clouds that it rain not upon it. And the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel and the men of Judah. See that? The men. The vineyard is the men of Judah. His pleasant plant. So you say, what are you talking about? Let's go to Isaiah 53 right quick. Go to Isaiah 53. And it says right here, they always saying this JC is the, who I believe our report, right there, our report. And to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? Now keep going. For he shall grow up before them as a tender plant. They got a tender plant. He just told you it was the men of Judah. See that? Like I said, Israel is the son, not JC. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Yes, sir. I was in verse 8, and it said, woe unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field, till there be no place that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. In mine ears, said the Lord of hosts, of a truth, many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair, without inhabitant. Yea, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield one bath, and the seed of a homer shall yield an ephah. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflame them, and the heart, and the vial, and the tabret, and the pipe, and wine are in their feasts, but they regard not the work of the Lord, neither consider the operations of his hands. Therefore, my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore, hell hath enlarged herself, and opened her mouth without measure, in their glory, and their multitude, in their pomp. And he that rejoiceth shall descend into it. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But the Lord of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and God that is holy shall be sanctified in righteousness. Then shall the lambs feed after their matter, in the waste places of the fat ones shall the strangers eat. Woe unto them that draw iniquity with cords of vanity, and sin as it were with a cart rope. They say, let him make speed and hasten his work, that we may see it, and let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw nigh and come, that we may know it. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward, and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. Therefore, as the fire devoureth the stubble, and the flame consumeth the chaff, so their root shall be as the rottenness, and their blossom shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the law of the Lord of hosts, and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore is the anger of the Lord kindled against his people, and he hath stretched forth his hand against them that have smitten them. And the hills did tremble, and their carcasses were torn in the midst of the street. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is and stretched out still, and he will lift up an ensign to the nations from far, and he will hiss unto them from the end of the earth. And behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. None shall be weary, nor stumble among them. None shall slumber, nor sleep. Neither shall the girdle of their loins be loosed, nor the latchet of their shoes be broken, whose arrows are sharp, and all their bows bent. Their horses' hoofs shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. Their roaring shall be like a lion. They shall roar like young lions. Yea, they shall roar, and lay hold of the prey, and shall carry it away safe, and none shall deliver it. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea. And if one look onto the land, behold, darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkened in the heavens thereof. And shalom, that was Isaiah chapter 5.
Right, so that's what I was talking about right there. The last 5 or 6 verses. If you go back to what I was saying, and in Isaiah chapter 3, about he's going to do something with the men. Well, here you go, this Nebuchadnezzar. Therefore, is the anger of the Lord kindled against his people, right? He has stretched forth his hand against them. So when he do what he mean, Nebuchadnezzar, he bringing Nebuchadnezzar, he stretched forth his hand and have smitten them. See that? Them, the men. And the hills did tremble, and their carcasses, see that? They go to dead bodies. The carcasses were torn in the midst of the streets, in the streets of Jerusalem. For all this, his anger is not turned away, but his hand is still straight, got his hand stretched out, just like over the Red Sea, right? 26. And I will lift up an ensign to the nations from afar, that's Nebuchadnezzar, and I will hiss unto them from the ends of the earth, and behold, they shall come. These the Chaldeans with speed, swiftly, right? None shall be weary. Here you go. None shall be weary. None they shall not stumble among them. None shall stumble nor sleep. Neither shall the girdle of their loins be loosed, nor the latches of their shoes be broken. Those, here you go, whose arrows are sharp and all their bows bent, their horses hoofs shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. Their roaring shall be like a lion, and they shall roar like a young lion, yea, and they shall roar and behold the prey. That's the Israelite men right here, and shall carry it away. That's when they took them some on to Babylon, and none shall deliver it. And in that day, this already happened. Already happened. This in foresight because of when you understand when you put Isaiah in where it's supposed to be at. When he's talking to them now, it ain't happened yet, but we know it already happened because the second beast already gone. So he says, in that day they shall roar against them like a roaring in the sea, and if one look unto the land, behold darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkness and the heavens thereof. So that's the judgment that Isaiah is telling them the Chaldeans coming. Okay, and then I want to shine a light on a couple other verses. 14 says, therefore hell have enlarged itself, right? So Gehenna, hell. So why was hell made? It was during Genesis 6. When the angels came down, slept with the women, got giants on the earth. Then he sent the angels, sent the holy ones, they came down and they cast them into hell. He made that for them, not for Israelites, but check it out. And opened her mouth. This is the hell he made for the fallen angels and these giants. And remember what David always saying, those that go down into the pit. We Israelites, we go up. When we pass away, our spirit ascend into heaven. But there's a descend into hell because that's where they didn't come from heaven. So he says, therefore hell have enlarged herself and opened her mouth. See that? Without measure, in their glory, in their multitude, in their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend. See that? That's what David tell you. Descend into it. So when you turn away from the Lord and start doing all that, then that's where you going. Same way he said it's going to expand. Hell got to expand because it wasn't designed for us. But if you wicked as hell, that's where you're going to. You're going to Lord yourself. That's what he's talking about. So in verse 24 says, therefore as the fire devours the stubble and the flames consume the chaff. Let me see if I'm consumes the chaff, so their root shall be as rottenness, and their bosom shall go up as dust, because now here you go, they have cast away the law. See that? Not the New Testament, the law, the Tanak. They have cast away the law. This is why Nebuchadnezzar came. They cast away the law of the Lord of hosts. That's who gave it to them, not Yahweh. Now here you go. The Holy One of Israel, the word of the Holy One of Israel. So Yahweh ain't the Holy One. We know in the book of Enoch, he created seven holy angels. They're holy ones. So right here, we know who the Lord of hosts is when you understand it. Read this verse again. Therefore, as the fire devoured the stubble, right? That's Nebuchadnezzar. He's sending Nebuchadnezzar. The fire devoured the stubble, and the flame consumeth the chaff. So their root shall be rottenness, and their bosom shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the law of the Lord of hosts, right? And despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. Yahweh ain't the Holy One. Okay. Any comments?
Shalom, brother Leonard. Just when it getting specific like that in verse 24, saying it's the law of the Lord of hosts. I mean, that's the purpose just of this channel, teaching that particular thing, who specifically it is. Excuse me, that the Lord of hosts is not Yahweh.
Exactly. And he ain't no holy one. Exactly. So let me read that right quick. We ain't gotta go there. I'll read it. I'm in the book of Enoch. This is the reason why this book is so significant. So we go to chapter 20, book of Enoch. Chapter 20. And these are the names of the holy angels, the holy ones, who watch: Uriel, Raphael, Raguel, Michael, Seraquiel, Gabriel, Remiel. Jesus ain't in there nowhere, and Yahweh ain't the holy one. So we just read over here in 24, it's one of these holy ones, the one gave Israel the law. And when you rightly divide it, we know that it's Michael. So let's look at that right quick. So when you go to Daniel, okay, and he tells you right here in verse chapter 10, Gabriel talking. Gabriel's the holy one. So it says in verse 19, being that came again and touched me, verse 18, that came and touched me, one like the appearance of a man, and he strengthened me. And he said, Son, O man, greatly beloved, fear not, peace be unto thee. Be strong, yea, be strong. And when he had spoken unto me, I was strengthened. This is Gabriel and Daniel. Says, and said, let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me. Then said he, knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now I will return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I am gone, gone forth, lo, the prince of Greece shall come. Now 21, is Gabriel talking to Daniel. But I will show thee that which is noted in the scriptures of truth. There is none that holdeth with me in these things but Michael, your prince. Gabriel ain't none of his prince. Gabriel, Michael the prince over Israel. And like I said, when you see this, Yahweh ain't nowhere around. JC definitely ain't there. So the prince over Israel is Michael. That's why the next chapter 12 tells you, in chapter 12, verse 1, says, at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, the Israelites, not JC. And there shall be a time of trouble, right here. When the trouble comes, they telling us when trouble comes, JC gonna come. The time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even at the same time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered. They're going to deliver everyone that shall be found written in the book. Yeah, you had nothing to do with JC, right? And then Michael inherited Israel. He's the holy one, that he's the mighty one. Yahweh ain't no mighty one. He's the mighty one, the strong one, the holy one that's over Israel, not Michael, not Yahweh, but Michael. Okay, anybody got any questions, comments? So that was Isaiah chapter, we read chapters 1 through 5. We read it and broke it down, broke the scriptures down. We'll pick a scripture right now and then we'll read that scripture and we'll break it down and we'll close out. Somebody got a scripture they want to read?
Shalom. We had gone to Ezekiel from Isaiah, and he was clarifying the shaking of the whole earth. So if we go 38 and 23 of Ezekiel, the it it says, "Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am the Lord." That's the Lord of hosts right there, sir.
Right, yeah. Once you find out the order that's in place in the scriptures,
Yes,
then these scriptures come alive. But as long as you
yes,
trying
sir.
to make trying to factor JC into the goings on of Israel, you ain't gonna never get it right. You're
Yes,
gonna
sir.
think you got it right, but you don't. All right.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. So with that being said, everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm gonna say shalom to everybody. I'll see y'all on Tuesday for our Bible briefing. Okay, and our new end time news. So I'll see y'all then. Shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament in Tanak, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.